from another human being. Yeah. I mean, you could get viruses, but the energetic communication, transmission, it's just another spiritual fairy tale. And I think there's so many spiritual fairy tales that we've all been, that we're all vulnerable to thinking, well, there must be some truth in that, or I hope there's some truth in that. Now, I'm not saying I know there's no truth in that, because no one knows, but uh, what we're speaking of is that there's nothing to get, and you can't get nothing. And that's the end of it, really. That's a really big, fat, full stop. We're speaking about nothing in particular. We're speaking about everything. And of course, there's no way you could have everything. And there's well, relatively you could. There is a possibility of knowing everything, theoretically, but there is no knowing. There is no theoretical possibility of knowing nothing. And just that alone, even on an intellectual level, can be liberating. That's the end. That's the end of it. So I can still play the game of seeking more knowledge and more understanding, but I can't pretend that it's not a game anymore. It can only be a game. That absolutely, there's no getting nothing. It can't be obtained because there's nothing to be obtained. There's nothing to be gained or lost. And that doesn't negate the relative losing and gaining that seems to happen. That's all there is. There is only the seeming appearance, which is all there is, and the falling away of that appearance, the loss of that appearance. And the illusion where most people live is in this space in between, that there is a space in between birth and death. And there isn't. This appearance has already disappeared by the time there's a thought about the appearance. The appearance is already lost. So when I say there's nothing to be gained, that's not hypothetical, it's literal. And so all that's trying to be shared is that this incredible mystery and appearance and disappearance not be two. That birth and death are not two. There isn't a life in between. These separate lives that that nearly everyone believes to be the absolute truth. This absolute truth of I am. This absolute truth of I am that's separate from everything else. And wonderfully, you can't speak of this because all of language is dualistic. It's the nature of thought. It's the nature of being. There is only objectivity. We can't tell any stories without time. We can't tell any stories without subject and object. And yet that's not the appearance of this. This doesn't appear separately, in separate places, in separate spaces. This doesn't have any edges to it. So Virtually everyone who speaks about this talks of completeness and wholeness. And this is complete and whole. There just simply is nothing outside or inside of this. The whole illusion is that I am inside and everything else is outside in relation to me. And that isn't how life appears. Life doesn't appear in relation, it is completely and utterly whole. Now, it doesn't appear as one. It's just not many. This appearance is not many. We have to dissect the appearance into parts in order to be able to tell stories about it. That's all. It's outrageously obvious. Everyone knows what's being spoken of already. But here's the thing, it's of no use to you. It won't help you. This message is not of use. You can't do anything with it. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help you understand. But what it might do is it might put understanding in its place, which is relative. There can be relative knowledge, relative understanding, and there's no limit to that. That's there can be a lifetime of seeking. There can be seemingly a lifetime of gaining more and more knowledge and understanding. But if you've come into these meetings, then you've already discovered that that's so temporary and it's not fulfilling. Whereas the fullness of this is whole and complete, and the fullness is already the case. This couldn't be more full. This emptiness could not be more full. Knowledge doesn't add to it. Understanding doesn't add to it. Simply can't be added to or taken away from. And the seeking, the drive, the motivation to find out what this is can seem to die. And there can be a doubtlessness that no one knows anymore, regardless of what any human being tells you that they know about this. It's all beautifully, wonderfully empty knowledge, empty understanding. And interestingly, that doesn't detract from that knowledge. It can still be beautiful, it can still be interesting, but it's of absolutely no value, ultimately. Absolutely no value. Nothing has any value. Everything is equally empty. And so then the relative value can be seen for what it is. Relatively valuable, absolutely worthless. And absolutely worthless sounds nihilistic. But this message has no nihilism in it whatsoever. It is it's just a simple, very simple love of life. That life is love, unconditionally, as it appears to be, and couldn't be otherwise. Even the hopes and dreams of otherwise couldn't be other than they are. So you end up waffling bullshit about unconditional love, thinking that that won't make sense to her. It will never make sense to a self. To me, that won't make sense because it's so obvious that there's hatred and envy and lust and greed and all the deadly sins that we were taught were not love. And we're talking about an unimaginable love, an all-inclusive love that doesn't discriminate in any way, just appears as it is. And I've been speaking about this for a little while now, apparently, and I was very reluctant to speak about love for a long time because I knew that there's a sense of, I remember hearing like Tony Parsons talk about the beloved and thinking, oh, fucking hell, I wish he wouldn't say that. Yeah. Really, because no, it sounds sentimental, but this, I don't say the beloved, but this unconditional love is not, it has no sentimentality whatsoever. It's utter neutrality. It's, and yeah, of course, and all the sentimentality and the romance and the loviness of love, that's all included, but it's also the filth of love, the disgust of love, the horror of love. And there've been times where I've been very reluctant to speak about it, but it is the overwhelming sense. It's really what makes this worth talking about. It's not worth talking about, but unconditional love is not what you're seeking, because self can only seek what isn't. The desire for this to be different is the only thing that's what fuels seeking. It's incredibly simple. Seeking just comes from the sense of, this isn't quite it. This isn't quite as it should be. Or this is nowhere near as it should be. But, there can be there's still, there's still waiting. I'm waiting until there's a certainty about this. I can't emphasize enough, there won't be any certainty. No one can be certain of this. There's no one separate of this to be certain. So it's kind of a certainty without any certainty, a doubtless uncertainty. What a load of shit. It's just that you can't come to a place of, oh, now I'm there. There's no arrival. And I don't know about you, but all my seeking was about, I'll know when I've got there. And I'm just waiting. I'll know when it happens. I'll know when I'm home. I know when I've arrived. I mean, this is the most wonderful, dreadfully wonderful news that there's no one here to arrive. There's no one that left to come back. I always loved the story of the prodigal son at Sunday school, because I thought that sounds great. My dad was often telling me off, but then, I was really bad and I went away and then I came back and I got the father's embrace. No, there's no father waiting for you. Now that's wonderful news. That is wonderful. There's nothing waiting for you. But that's not what I want, is it? It's no good pretending. This is the end of the pretense that you could get what you've been looking for. Whatever it is you're looking for, it cannot be found. So no finding is both dreadful for the seeker and wonderful, because it's the liberation from the waiting for life to begin when I'm ready, when life's ready. So the great news is, it's not that you're not ready yet, it's that you can't be ready. The bad news is you can't do anything about the waiting. It's no good saying, oh, okay, I'll stop waiting then, because then you'll be waiting to stop wait. Well, I hope that's negative enough for all of you. That you're not going to get, you're pretty sure you're not going to get anything. And this isn't the wonderful thing. This isn't about me. It isn't about you. So don't pretend all you're seeking has been about you. It fucking always is. But the wonderful news is it was none of it. It wasn't you that was seeking. The illusion is that there is someone who needs to find. There's this whole energy of being thrown out of Eden, really. We're just trying to get back into the garden. There's only the fucking garden. There's no possibility of escape from the garden. You just think it needs tidying up. You want the borders, you want some fresh new flowers, and you want the garden to look a certain way. The garden is just how it is. Kind of a bit biblical today. Yeah. It's the age thing, I think. Can I ask a question? Yeah. So I like to think of this message as the home and resting place of the absolute failures. That's how I see you all. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You would have had to have tried a lot of shit in order to conclude. I think the place for me is where there's no path, there's nothing to do, not going to give me anything to learn. There's going to be no method, no process. Oh, that sounds a relief. I haven't got to work anything out. The people I go and see, the speakers are actually telling me there's nothing I can do. So probably the best thing I could do is nothing. And that feels incredibly compassionate to be able to sit here with you and you to come for just simply for me to tell you it's okay. There's nothing to be done. Rather than the hundreds of writers and speakers who have told you what you need to do in order to become. It feels utterly loving and compassionate to tell you, no, there's nothing to be done. Enough. And when it was enough, when this is enough, there can be an immense sadness for all the effort, immense grieving for all how hard not only have you tried, but every self has tried to become the best self it could be, to become a complete self, a whole self, or maybe the big self with a capital S. I mean, I don't think there's anything worse than that. if you've been down that road. Try to get rid of the little one, the little needy one, and just be the all-encompassing, all-embracing, all-loving, or to become God. And self does want to be God. I have no doubt that human beings made God in their own image. Well, man, because women didn't get a look in. Not in any holy book, anyway. I've got 2 grown-up daughters who are very feminist. And it's funny, and I said, I'm a feminist to them. And they went, don't be ridiculous, Dad, you can't be a feminist. I went, well, I can if I want to. But I do think, that I don't know if I've always felt when I've read anything spiritual, there isn't, all the holy books, all the spiritual texts. It's all written by men with huge egos. There's nothing for women in any of it. Women should reject the whole lot out of hand. Men want it to be God. That's it. It's no different now than it was then. Exactly the same now as it was 2,000 years ago, with the story of men obsessed with power. And it's probably obvious to you already that the more power, the more control. Control equals power. And self is all about control. And because control, the more control I have, the more I can manage life, then the safer I feel. And that's all self is interested in. It's totally self-interested in security. When there is just this, undeniably just this, there can be no control, none, and there can be no power. There's neither a lack of power nor power. It's because everything is just as it is, and there can be, you can still tidy your house and do the washing up. I don't mean that kind of power, but in managing my life to become better, so that this becoming, the whole sense of becoming, this annihilates that, which can feel terrifying to the one who's always lived in becoming, but really all the liberation is in that. All the freedom is the total impossibility of becoming. There is only is. There is no will be. There is no was. All the tenses just get all thrown. They're all just thrown into this part of whatever this is. And it also feels loving to say that you can rest. You won't find out what this is. You've been searching a lifetime to know and to understand, and it's futile. Now that might not feel satisfactory, so you'll go back and you'll buy a few more books, and you'll go to some other speakers who'll tell you they do know how this works. And all I want to tell you is this doesn't work. There's nothing that's working or not working. There's just what is. What is not a work in progress. There is no progress. So you stop worrying about progress. There's neither progress nor regress. It is wonderful life not being a job anymore, not work. There's nothing to work on. I want to tell everyone, you can stop now. I know you've been working on yourself and your parents said you need to, and your teachers said you need to even more. And then your spiritual teacher said even more so. And then your therapist said even more so. If there really is nothing, there is no self, there is nothing to work on. Because it is all about me, isn't it? You know, if virtually, while there's a sense of me, then it's all about me. My grandfather had a phrase. He said, there's no point in polishing a turd, a shoe. And that's really what I feel that I did. Most of my life has been feeling like a turd and polishing it up so it looked presentable. That would be my sense of self. Now, I don't know you feel like a turd, but just that, you know.
What is a turd?
It's eine
It's a lovely dog shit.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
One of those curly ones. Yeah.
I done that.
And, but the thing about polishing the turd, polishing the shit, which is you, is of course, you're always worried about, did I do the polishing enough or have they seen through? And so this self-consciousness of, if they really knew, you know, if people knew me, if they actually see through the facade, then I'm in trouble. And yeah, of course, how could I not live in anxiety all the time? So, it's doubtless. I can't see myself. So how on earth can you see me? And it is an amazing revelation. I mean, it's probably the most shocking thing of all. If it hits the undoubted reality that you've never been seen and you've never seen another. You recognize bodies, you recognize faces, and you recognize behaviors. But the other is completely fictional. You've made that up. There's nothing to see.
Tim is.
I remember when I thought my mother, because my mother would pretend she could read my mind. Mothers are good at that as a control mechanism. You know, even your thoughts, you know, thought police, like Big Brother, isn't it? And parents, I mean, it's a wicked thing to do because parents should actually tell the truth and say, no, I have no idea what you're thinking. I know, but parents don't do that because they're in control. They go, well, I know what you're thinking. I can, you know. So then you have the sense of even thoughts on, I've got to be really careful about my thoughts. Even thoughts are dangerous. So it's wonderful when they're not. There's no danger in thoughts at all. Sorry, what were you going to say? Thought you weren't coming. Thought, oh shit, he's had a shit morning. I'm bad enough of that. Yeah, I guess that's kind of the dilemma of coming to these meetings. You can't help but think, because you're coming to a meeting and you're paying money and you've made effort, there must be, because I've done this, there must be something to get. There must. I know he's going to tell us that there's nothing to get, but surely he can't mean that. Because otherwise, why would you hold a meeting? It's counterintuitive. Well, it's nonsense, isn't it? It's more than counterintuitive. It's fucking ridiculous that you hold a meeting where there's nothing to be gained from the meeting. That's just not how life works. You enroll on a course, you read a book, you listen to videos, you go to meetings to come away from the meeting having gained something. And I'm very pleased to say that that's not the point of this meeting. This is about disillusionment. I really like that word. Rather than enlightenment, this is much more about disillusionment. The illusion that there is something to get, that there's more to get, or less to get. Because even if you come to the meeting you've come to some kind of reconciliation that there's nothing to get, there's still, it may well be that this is how it was for me, that there's something to lose. So I get that there's nothing to get, but I think there might be something to lose still that's inhibiting. Yeah, I'm not there yet. While there's a sense of not yet, not there yet, not arrived yet, not complete yet, then it either has to be gaining or losing, not just as it is. But this is just as it is. And that's the whole message. So it might still sound as though, okay, there could be a shift. There could be a falling away. There could be a loss of energetic contraction. All of these phrases that you've heard. But they're all just stories. There really isn't any of that. All of that is just trying to make sense of what was before and how it is now, all in comparison. And absolutely, this is incomparable. Comparison is always just a story. All a story. Non-duality is just another story. It's not the truth. There's no escape from the story time. So I guess you've all been searching for the truth, for reality. And unlike most other teachings, all that's being attempted to be conveyed is that the truth, if there is a truth, if there is the truth, it's unknowable. And all the peace and the rest, which you told yourself that you were seeking, but it was a lie because you weren't seeking that. You were seeking the truth, to know it, to have it, to understand it, to own it, to be one of the special ones. Like the special ones that you listen to, who have the truth, who know what they're speaking about, have found what you're looking for. Unlike that, all that I want to say to you is, it's okay. No one knows the truth. The truth is unknowable. And you can't know the truth, but there is only the truth. And the truth is just as this seems to be. That is the only truth. The only truth that can be known is utterly just as it seems, not as it is. You've heard of what is, or just as it is, as if that is a thing that was universal. So your as it is the same as the teacher's as it is, and the person sitting next to you as it is. As it is a universal knowing, a universal understanding. That's not what's being pointed to. In fact, nothing's being pointed to at all. You can't point at this. But everywhere you point is this. Tim. So it doesn't matter where you're looking.
When you say it is as it is, you say sometimes you say as it seems to be.
Yes.
So there is a huge difference.
No, and of course that sounds as though that's different. What I'm suggesting, or what's being suggested, is as it seems to be is the only way. Is as it is. As it is only ever as it seems to be. So they are two.
And as it seems to be means it's unknowable. So
yeah. And yet, here's the thing. Well, you only ever know what is known is as it seems to be, as it appears to be. Hence, a lot of speakers use the word apparently all the time.
Yeah.
So how is this as it appears to be? And it's never more than as it appears to be. So there isn't anything more than what appears to be the case. Whereas for the seeker, for me, I was always just saying, well, I don't want it to be only as it seems to be. I want to know the truth behind. So the seeker lives in this illusion where there's a veil of, well, I know it seems to be that, but there's a truth behind it. What's being suggested is there is no behind. There actually is no veil. The veil is illusory. And if the veil is lifted, this is as it seems to be. And that's the revelation. The revelation is that nothing else is revealed. Well, that's not what seekers are not looking for that. I wasn't looking for that. I was looking for what is behind the veil. I've heard of this veil. In fact, the worst thing that ever happened to me were glimpses that in the recollection of the glimpses, in the remembering of them, I told myself the story of, in that glimpse, the veil had lifted and there was reality. And I think for most seekers, they get stuck in that and trying to it sort of emphasizes the story of there must be more than this. And all that seems to have happened here is that the ordinariness of what seems to be, it's undoubted that that is all there is. And so the seeking stopped. The belief in the veil no longer occurred, that nothing is being hidden. Everything is in plain sight. And nothing is in plain sight as well.